I have a clip here from More Perfect Union to show you guys about broken promises on behalf of McDonald's and Staples and other corporations who promised certain wages and then reneged on that promise as soon as the employees inquired about a job. So this is More Perfect Union. As always, guys, really encourage you to follow their work. I follow them on Twitter. They're always posting about labor movement stuff, strikes, protests, unionization efforts, et cetera, et cetera. Great work. So this is More Perfect Union on reneged promises from giant corporations like McDonald's and Staples.
How much I could expect to be paid. He was like, well, our starting wage is about $10 an hour. And I said, well, that's a real shocker because when I applied for the job, the posting said it was 16. And he did one of those kind of laughs. And he was like, well, we don't really pay that here.
Putting down the highest wage that you offer as the hourly salary for all positions is just false advertisement.
It was really a rock and a hard place situation. I didn't have a choice. I had to take the work.
My name's Eoin Higgins. I'm a reporter. I write the newsletter, The Flashpoint. For this story, I talked to people working for companies like Staples, Benihana, Applebee's, McDonald's, Costco, all kinds of large corporations, as well as a ton of small businesses, all of which do the same thing. They offer workers one high wage in the job listing, and then when the worker goes in and takes the job and is offered the job, it's often for a lower salary.
Well, I applied to Staples because I was trying to find a job that had living wage potential, something around $15, $17 an hour. Put in the application. I heard back in about a week. I was surprised to find out at the interview that $16 an hour was not what they had planned on paying me. I mean, my heart just dropped straight out of my chest. It was everything I could do to not let that feeling show on my face, because they teased me with this possibility of being able to provide for myself, to take care of myself in this rugged individualist society that we have. And $10 an hour forces me to rely on other people. It doesn't provide me with enough income, even at full time, to be able to take care of myself.
The way that it works is this. The employer offers a certain wage in a job listing. The job listing says that you are expected to do X, Y, and Z work for a wage that is rather high by the standards of wherever you are. Once you go through the interview process, a lot of the time, the interviewer will say something like, when they're about to offer you the job, will say something like, hey, you don't have quite the level of experience that we were hoping. And so we're going to start you at this rate, and then maybe we'll get you up to the other rate later. What this effectively does is it locks you in to being ready to take the job for the salary that you were expecting to take it for, but the actual offer is far lower. McDonald's was a perfect example of this. They would advertise for management and assistant management positions. People would get in the door, they would go through the application process, they would finally be offered a different job, a more low-paying job.
On these business cards, it said make $18 an hour plus tips. And I knew that at the time I was making $13 an hour minimum wage. So I remember asking the area director, like, hey, why does it say $18 an hour as a base pay? Like, can I get a raise if this is what we're doing? And he told me, no, that's the rate, including tips. I think ultimately employers use this tactic of advertising high and unrealistic wages to maximize profits and prioritize money rather than fostering a healthy workplace environment.
You are a working class or a poor person who is trying to get a salary so that you can afford food, afford a place to live, afford just the basics of living in the US. Your time is extremely limited. and you need to find work as quickly as possible. If you're in that situation and you finally get the job offer, and then the job offer comes in maybe many dollars lower than you were expecting, or just slightly lower, but the benefits are cut, or the hours are not what you were expecting, your back is against the wall and you're not really able to say no as easily as you might be if you had a little bit of a cushion.
And it's not fair, because we are always told as workers that our experience matters and that our gumption matters and that our willingness to do the labor matters, but that's never been true in my experience. Really applied to that job with the hope that someone would value me as a worker and utilize my experience over the last 10 to 15 years and put it to good use, and I don't feel like that's what's going on here.
Fantastic work, as always, from More Perfect Union to bring this stuff to the forefront. Eoin Higgins, also fantastic follow on Twitter. He's a journalist, writes all sorts of great pieces. If you're not following Eoin, I encourage you to. It's his first name's a little bit, it's spelled weird, E-I-O-N, pronounced Eoin Higgins. Go find him on Twitter. And I actually want to read a little bit here from his piece, which is about the same thing. So this is in his Substack. Bait and switch. Companies promise workers pay rates in ads they don't deliver on. They said if they gave me that, they would have to give everyone that. What a fucking admission. Employers are using a bait and switch strategy to get prospective employees in the door for an interview, promising high wages in help-wanted ads that aren't matched in eventual job offers. The practice isn't new, but its use today stands in stark contrast with complaints from employers that they can't fill positions. I asked working people about dishonest salary offers and how that's affected whatever trust they had in employers to begin with. Here's what they told me. I had no choice. When companies advertise for positions with higher wages than they are willing to pay, it's often a transparent attempt to lowball job seekers until the prospective employer lands on someone desperate enough to take the offer. Alex, a 35-year-old who recently moved to Miami, answered a posting through the online employment marketplace Snagajob, offering $16 an hour to work in a technology sales position at Staples. At the end of the interview, the manager revealed that the pay was actually $10 an hour. When I replied that the posting for the job clearly said $16 an hour, he chuckled a bit and said, key holders don't even make that much. I think the highest paid position is about $13 an hour. Alex told me I had no choice but to take the job while pursuing other opportunities, but I was very put off that companies are allowed to outright lie about a position's compensation. The low pay has a ripple effect, Alex explained. I'm sure I don't need to remind you that $10 an hour in Miami, even at full time, doesn't even cover rent and utilities, let alone food, gas, and car insurance, Alex said. So I know that was a little repetitive with the video we just watched, but I really wanted to kind of drive the point home that this is a very explicit example of, it's just fraud, you guys. It's out and out lying. Like it's you know, if you post an odd job for someone or something and then you refuse to pay what you had said you were going to pay, you're kind of a shitty person, right? Like that's fraudulent. That's deceitful. That's, you know, you're kind of a charlatan if you engage in that kind of nonsense. And yet companies are allowed to be charlatans and frauds whenever they choose. So great work from More Perfect Union. Great work from Eoin Higgins to reveal the conduct engaged in by these major corporations. And again, this was anecdotal. It's not limited to McDonald's or Staples, of course. Something that is commonly engaged in.